Order, order. We start with questions. Secretary of State for Housing, Community and Local Government, Mohammad Yasin.
Number 1, please, Mr. Speaker.
Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, with your permission, I'll take questions 1, 2, 13, 19, 20 and 22 together. On the 27th of January, we published the draft Common Hold and Leasehold Reform Bill, marking the beginning of the end for the feudal leasehold system and supporting millions of families with a cost of living. We are reinvigorating Common Hold and capping ground rent. We are analysing the responses to our wide-ranging consultation to drive up transparency of service charges and make it easier for leaseholders to challenge unreasonable costs. We will implement these measures as soon as possible.
Mohammad Yasin.
Speaker, service charge inflation rising by 50% and even 80% faced by leaseholders, freeholders and tenants is a growing scandal. Too many of my constituents are trapped under charges they cannot afford, paying for defects caused by poor construction and stuck with properties they cannot sell. So will the Secretary of State strengthen the Common Hold and Leasehold Reform Bill to require full itemised transparency, penalise landlords who refuse disclosure and create a faster, cheaper way to challenge excessive charges without tribunal?
I thank my honourable friend for his question. The Government recognises the considerable financial strain that rising service charges place on leaseholders and tenants. On the 4th of July last year, the Government published a consultation on strengthening leaseholder protections over charges and services, which included proposals to increase transparency over service charges and to scrap the presumption for leaseholders to pay their landlords' legal costs, thereby removing a significant barrier to challenging poor practice. The consultation closed on the 26th of September. We are analysing the responses and will publish our response shortly.
Glindon.
Mr. Speaker, leaseholders in Newcastle upon Tyne, Easton, Wallsend contact me regularly about extortionate service charges and say that tribunals are slow and stressful and ultimately they feel powerless. The Minister has previously set out that retaining variable charges is important, so necessary funds can be raised for legitimate purposes. Without directly limiting their rate of increase, is the Minister confident that the Government's reforms will address the issue of unreasonable charges making properties unsellable?
Mr. Speaker, I thank my honourable friend for her question. We are determined to take action to address unfair and unjustified charges, and we are committed to implementing the measures in the Leasehold and Freehold Reform Act as quickly as possible.
Sadik, Al-Hassan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I commend the Government and my right honourable friend's reforms to the leasehold sector, particularly capping ground rents that will make a real difference to leaseholders across North Somerset. I have been contacted by numerous constituents in Portishead and across my constituency living in leasehold properties managed by First Port, who report persistent failures, poor communication, opaque and unjustified service charges. Will the Minister confirm that the Government's leasehold reforms will go further and introduce robust enforceable regulation of service charges and professionalise property management companies such as First Port so that they can genuinely be held accountable for poor management practices?
Well, I thank my honourable friend for his question, and I recognise, of course, the situation that he is describing and how unacceptable that it is. The Government is committed to ensuring that those living in leasehold properties are protected from abuse and poor service at the hands of unscrupulous managing agents. On the 4th of July last year, we consulted on the introduction of mandatory qualifications for managing agents, and we're analysing responses right now. We are clear that this consultation is not the final step in the regulation of agents, and we will set out our full position shortly.
Apsana Begum.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've been working with leasehold groups in my constituency such as the aptly named Friends in High Places group. They inform me that the combined costs of the building safety regulators' fees, the purchasing of reports and various surveys and the remediation works needed are giving rise to potentially enormous bills which could lead to leaseholders becoming bankrupt and homeless, as these are not picked up by developers or freeholders for older buildings or RMCs. Could the Minister outline how upcoming legislation will clarify what counts as proportionate and or reasonable costs that fall onto leaseholders in relation to the BSR's work?
Well, I thank her for her question, and I commend the work of the Friends in High Places group that she has been working with. We are seeing now improvements in the performance of the building safety regulator, but she's quite right that unfair costs should not fall on leaseholders. And if it would be helpful, I'd be happy to arrange for a meeting for her with the relevant minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Far too many homeowners in Rochdale are subject to fleece holders. This is whereby they're being fleeced for estate management company fees in return for little or no service or accountability. This government is taking action to prevent future homeowners from falling into this trap. But can the Secretary of State set out how he plans to help current homeowners to avoid this rip-off charge?
I thank him for his question, and I know my honourable friend, the Housing Minister, is looking forward to meeting him and his constituents next week. Hornet have been strong and vocal campaigners for homeowners' rights, and I welcome their engagement. This government, of course, is committed to ending the injustice of leasehold. Leaseholders should not be subject to the kind of legalised extortion which they've experienced in recent years, and this government remains committed to bringing these practices to an end.
Lee Dillon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Secretary of State for his response. And I welcome the support being given to leaseholders. However, many problems that they do face could be addressed through stronger regulation of managing agents. Persistent failings by companies such as Firstport continue to fill my inbox, Mr. Speaker. In Newbury, we have a block of flats where a lift has been out of order for 2 years. And one constituent told me that because it was broken, her son had to carry her husband down the stairs when he moved into a care home. No family should ever have to face that. So would the Secretary of State outline what steps the government is taking to strengthen the regulation of managing agents and ensure that they are properly accountable to residents who pay for their services?
Well, I thank him for his question, and of course I recognise what he's saying about Firstport, because members across the whole House have been raising similar concerns for a very long time now. Now, we launched a consultation last summer, he will be aware, that will include looking at how we can better and more tightly regulate managing agents so that leaseholders are not subject to the kind of abuses that he is describing.
Manuela Perteghella.
Mr. Speaker, many of my constituents in Stratford-on-Avon live on new build estates where the roads and open spaces have never been adopted. Years after moving in, they are still paying private management charges on top of their council tax for basic infrastructure that homeowners should expect the council to maintain. Does the Secretary of State recognise that this gap between planning approval and adoption is fueling the leasehold scandal? And will the government act to ensure that developers complete roads to adoptable standards and local authorities are supported to adopt them promptly?
Well, she's quite right to point out the abuses of leasehold and how disturbing and worrying this can be for people who are living on these estates. That, of course, is precisely why the government launched 2 consultations in December, so that we can properly understand and take action to prevent the kind of abuses that she's just described.
Easton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Has the government made an assessment of the potential merits of introducing a mandatory standard service charge statement for leaseholders to ensure a clearer breakdown of costs and improve transparency in the administration of service charges?
Well, I of course recognise the situation he's just described, and that is precisely why we've launched those consultations which will cover the circumstances he's just described, so that we can end that kind of practice.
Hobhouse.
Very sharp practices are not just down to one management company. A lot of companies are at it. One of my Bath constituent, a leaseholder, wrote to me saying he's feeling abandoned and angry. His property is leaking, but the freeholder is not interested in helping. His ground rent will double in 2030. Can he reassure me that my leaseholder in Bath will actually be protected from these unreasonable charges in the future?
I hope her constituent will be pleased to learn that the reforms that we've announced as part of the draft leasehold reform bill that my honourable friend launched recently will include capping ground rent, so that kind of abuse can't happen in future.
Shockat.
Members to my registered interest. Mr Speaker, an acute increase of service charges of 78% have knocked the residents of Phoenix House in my constituency of Leicester South. The council is the freeholder, has overseen a complex arrangement with a private head leaseholder and various commercial managing agencies below them. So due to the complexities of these arrangements, the residents have no idea where this 78% has come from. So will the Minister commit to introduce a duty of candour so leaseholders know exactly what they are paying for, and also possibly consider a threshold for acute service charge increases?
I mean, he will have been able to make those points through the consultation, and the reason that we launched that consultation is that so we can get to a position where we can simplify the system so leaseholders know what charges they're being asked to pay and what services they're receiving for them, and give them greater powers to challenge unfair practices of the kind that he's just described.
Shadow Minister David Simmonds.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. According to the government's own statistics, 84% of the respondents to its consultation said they felt the system for challenging unfair charges for managing agents and other lease arrangements was not fit for purpose. Well, we agree on this side of the House, which is why in the 2024 Leasehold and Freehold Reform Act, we legislated to address this. Mr Speaker, I appreciate the Secretary of State has had a few other distractions recently, but he's told the House that he is committed to addressing this. So can he tell all of our leaseholder constituents by when the government will enact the legislation which we passed with their support?
Yeah, I mean, nothing is going to distract me from focusing on the needs of leaseholders, of course. And we remain fully committed to ensuring that the provisions and the powers outlined in the Leasehold and Freehold Reform Act are brought into force as soon as they possibly can be. It's important for us to go through the technical detail that is covered by the consultation, but we will bring forward those proposals in due course, and that will be as quickly as it possibly can be.
Liberal Democrat spokesperson Gideon Amos.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Many of the 5 million leaseholders were looking forward to being freed from a feudal leasehold system until they read the draft bill, in which many were disappointed. No restriction on the development value leaseholders are going to be charged. No broadening of the mixed-use blocks which will be eligible for enfranchisement. The leaseholders continuing to pay the legal fees of landlords, and the leasehold charges, service charges, still not being capped. Given the commitments in the Labour manifesto and in the King's speech to enact these recommendations from the Law Commission, shouldn't the government be more courageous and take on the landlords and give leaseholders proper rights to enfranchise as they promised to do so?
Well, I agree with the sentiment of what he's saying, but unfortunately he's got a number of his facts wrong there. But I would be happy to respond to a letter if he'd like to put them down to me in detail so that I can bring him up to speed. For instance, we are seeking to end the practice of leaseholders being required to pay their landlords legal fees. This is the biggest reform of leasehold in 1,000 years, and I hope when he receives, when he writes to me and I'm able to respond to him, he will be able to give the reforms his full support.
The Law Commission reforms are being enacted, and there's no date yet for a bill to be brought forward. I hope the Secretary of State will give a date, but can I move on to leaseholders who are still living with unsafe cladding and building defects, hundreds of thousands in buildings under 11 metres and living with cladding that is recognised as highly flammable and not eligible for the Building Safety Fund? Isn't it time they were given the peace of mind and the safety they thought their home was providing them?
We are supporting these situations on a case-by-case basis, but I would be more than happy to arrange a meeting for him with my honourable friend, the Building Safety Minister, if that would be helpful to him.
Jody Reid.
Question number 3, Mr Speaker.
Minister.
Mr Speaker, we are continuously assessing trends in anti-Semitism, working with the police, the Jewish community and our anti-Semitism working group. What is absolutely clear is that anti-Semitic incidents are on the rise. This is an unacceptable and heartbreaking reality, and one we are determined as a government to get a grip of and to turn the tide on. This is why we're taking coordinated action to tackle anti-Semitism, including across education, health and other key institutions.
Jody Reid.
Can I thank the Minister for her response? As she rightly outlines, anti-Semitism is indeed on the rise, and during the ongoing by-election in Gorton and Denton, senior Green Party figures engaged with 5 Pillars, an outlet previously disciplined for anti-Jewish hatred, and it's known, well known for amplifying extremist voices. Those in public office have a duty to act responsibly, and there are serious questions here to ask about judgment. Does she agree with me that parties seeking office should not legitimise platforms linked to hatred? And will she outline what further steps the Department is taking to combat extremism, anti-Semitism and other forms of hatred?
Mr. Speaker, what I'd say is that we are seeing the rise of hate and division in our society, and this is an absolutely shameful reality. One in which we have parts of our Jewish community, our Muslim community, our Sikh community, our Hindu communities feeling scared and unsafe in their own country. All of us in politics and public life have a huge responsibility to play our part to stamp this out, including calling it out wherever we see it, holding our communities together and standing with the majority of people in this country who are tolerant and accepting of their neighbours, irrespective of their faith, their colour or their background.
Father of the House, Sir Edward Lee.
Anti-Semitism is horrible, but will the Minister agree that there is nothing anti-Semitic in supporting the rights of the suffering Palestinian people? There is nothing anti-Semitic in opposing the actions of the present right-wing Israeli government in making a two-state solution impossible. There is nothing anti-Semitic in that, because probably the majority of Jewish people throughout the world agree with me, and actually the actions of the Israeli government in forcing Palestinians off their ground is fueling anti-Semitism.
What I'd say is that it is very, very important for us to make a distinction between the anti-Semitism that we are seeing, that is rife, that is unacceptable, and that we all have a duty to stamp out, and the plight that we see in the Palestinian community, where a lot of us will have great, great sympathy. We, as a government, are committed to delivering that two-state solution. We are committed to working with peace so that we can have peace for the Palestinian people and peace for the Israeli people in general.
Dr. Peter Prinsley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Interfaith activity has faced significant reduction and in some cases has almost collapsed following heightened tensions from the Gaza conflict. Does the Minister agree that measures to support and fund interfaith understanding have a crucial role in restoring community cohesion?
Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend is completely right, and he talks with great passion, commitment and knowledge about these issues. Interfaith work has been key. We are seeing it within our communities. Now, we as a department have been committed to supporting interfaith work, to working with all of our faith communities. This is something that we have done and that we will continue to do, because ultimately it is people of faiths in our communities that will come together, that will do the hard work of bridging and bonding our communities at a time when there is huge pressure on all sides.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I recently had the privilege of spending some time with the Jewish community of Stamford Hill. Those conversations reinforced that we must, as the Minister rightly said, do more to combat anti-Semitism. She cited the figures, the recent figures showing that anti-Semitism is at near record levels. Now, when in government, we put in place the first multi-year funding for the CST. And can I thank the government for recently extending and increasing this funding? And will the Minister join with me in thanking the CST volunteers and agree that anti-religious hatred has no place in our society?
The right honourable member is completely right. Religious hatred has no place in our society, and the tragedy at the moment is that we are seeing it on the rise. We are seeing it in our Jewish community, we are seeing it in our Muslim community, we are seeing it in our Hindu and Sikh communities. It is beholden on us to make sure that we are doing our part to stand with these communities and to stamp this out. I'm proud that this government is putting funding towards security. The work of the CSD has been absolutely vital for the Jewish community and supporting the community. The travesty is that we need security in our synagogues. We need security in our places of worship. That cannot be a reality that any of us can tolerate, and it is one we must work together to stamp out.
Robin Swan.
Question number 4, Mr. Speaker.
Well done. Mr Speaker, with UK SPF funding ending, we are committed to continuing local growth funding in Northern Ireland to boost productivity and growth. We are working closely with the Northern Ireland Executive and the Northern Ireland Office to design and deliver an investment plan that will support infrastructure, business growth and skills and employment support.
Robin Swan.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. And I do thank the Minister for having met me previously in regards to the concerns that are being raised by the voluntary and community sector in Northern Ireland about how this fund will be split between capital and revenue, and how we're now looking at a fund that's more capital heavy than it is revenue. The Children's Commissioner for Northern Ireland has actually said that the shift towards capital heavy investment actually fails to recognise the reality that youth and community work is relational, intensive and people driven and not infrastructure driven. Would the Minister agree with me that she will continue to work to shift that balance between capital and revenue so that it actually supports the people that use it?
Mr Speaker, thank you to the Honourable Member for meeting with me with parts of the voluntary sector. Local growth funding, as he said, will direct capital funding into enabling infrastructure required to boost the Northern Ireland economy. Now, this sits alongside £19.3 billion spending review settlement and £370 million budget funding to the Executive, which has the flexibility to support programmes delivered by the voluntary and community sector. But we have heard the huge pressures that the voluntary and community sector are under, and we are committed to working with the Northern Ireland Office and the Executive to find ways to support the sector in the transition.
Number 5, please, Mr Speaker.
Minister. Well.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. In the 13 months since we announced plans to supercharge growth in the Oxford-Cambridge corridor, significant progress has been made, including updated proposals on East-West Rail, the establishment of an Oxford Growth Commission and tangible steps towards realising the full potential of Greater Cambridge.
Well, Mr Speaker, I'm very grateful to my honourable friend for the work he's been doing on this, and I'm very pleased to see the announcement of the consultation on the Development Corporation a few weeks ago. So what further steps can we expect to see along the corridor in the coming months?
I thank my honourable friend not only for his question, Mr Speaker, but also for his unwavering support for ambitious and high-quality sustainable growth in his city and surrounding areas. We are determined to unleash nationally significant growth in Greater Cambridge to the benefit of existing and new communities and the nation as a whole. Following the consultation on a Greater Cambridge Urban Development Corporation, which ends on the 1st of April, we'll publish a response of the summary responses and a formal response setting out the government's next steps. As ever, Mr Speaker, I'll strive to ensure my honourable friend, as other honourable members from Cambridgeshire, are fully appraised of the government's thinking.
Speaker. Defence will be a key pillar of the Oxford-Cambridge growth corridor, and in my Huntingdon constituency, we're lucky enough to have RAF Whitton, which is in the middle of a very ambitious project, Project Fairfax, to use that surplus MOD land. The MOD signed a Memorandum of Understanding with Huntingdonshire District Council last year, but also Homes England are a key part of that. Would the Minister meet with myself and with the Chief Executive of Huntingdonshire District Council to discuss how we can best supercharge these growth plans and make good progress on this?
More than happy to meet the honourable gentleman.
Right, let's just move on to Gordon McKee.
Question number 6, Mr Speaker.
Minister.
Mr Speaker, Castlemilk in Glasgow South will be given up to £20 million Pride in Place programme funding over the next 10 years. Glasgow City Council will also be allocated £1.5 million to the Pride in Place Impact Fund over the next 2 years. This funding, alongside increased powers in our Pride in Place strategy, will put his community in the driving seat so that they can deliver the priorities they want to see in their area.
Thank the Minister for her answer. Castlemilk in my constituency is a place full of brilliant people, but it has often been let down by government, whether that's the SNP government closing the local police station, the council stripping back the opening hours of the local swimming pool. So I am delighted that the UK Labour government is awarding £20 million of Pride in Place funding to Castlemilk. Local people are full of ideas for how this money can be spent, and top of the list for many is bringing a supermarket to the local area. So will the Minister join with me in celebrating this funding, and will she commit to working closely with the local community and myself to make this a success?
I thank my honourable friend for being such a powerful champion for his community. I'm excited by both the level of engagement but the ideas coming from local people in Castlemilk. Thank him for all the work he is doing to make Pride in Place a success in his area, and my colleagues in the Scottish office and myself look forward to working with him and the community to deliver for their area.
Thomas.
Number 7, Mr Speaker.
Minister.
Mr Speaker, the definition of grey belt for the purposes of both plan making and decision making is set out in the glossary of the National Planning Policy Framework. The Government also updated Greenbelt planning practice guidance in February last year to assist local planning authorities with identifying and considering proposals on potential Grey-belt land and to provide for a consistent approach across England.
Bradley Thomas.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Bromsgrove Golf Course is in open countryside. It's a beautiful green open space. It's one of the most popular golf courses anywhere in the country and contains over 20,000 trees. Does the Minister really think that this is suitable for development, particularly at scale? Will he rule out development on such golf courses? And if not, will the Minister meet with me and members of the golf club to discuss their concerns?
Mr Speaker, I certainly won't rule in or out development on any particular site, and he knows the reasons why I can't speak to particular planning applications. What I would say to the honourable gentleman, and he knows this from our recent meeting on the subject, it is for local planning authorities themselves to determine whether exceptional circumstances exist that justify the release of Greenbelt, and it's for individual local planning authorities to undertake the necessary assessments to identify if land is Grey-belt, either through plan making or through considering specific applications that come forward.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The OBR has concluded that this government's overhaul of the planning system will mean there will be more house building in this country for the first time in 40 years. Good news for residents in my constituency of Harlow who are desperate to get a home for themselves and for their families. But what more can this government do to provide an uplift in social and affordable housing that residents in my constituency of Harlow desperately need?
Well, I thank my honourable friend for that question, Mr Speaker, and he's right. Our changes to the National Planning Policy Framework in December 2024 alone have been judged by the OBR to lead to the biggest increase in house building over the last 40 years. What the party opposite won't recognise, Mr Speaker, is that as important as preserving green belts are, there is simply not enough sites on brownfield land registers across the country to deliver the volume of homes we need. That is why we need a more strategic approach to greenbelt land release and development.
Shadow Minister Davidson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The Minister's just very clearly set out for the House the key plank of development strategy under the previous Secretary of State, which was to redesignate large parts of our green belt as grey belt. But with housing delivery collapsing, I have to ask the Minister, if we look just at the situation in our capital, a recent report identified that London has 460,000 additional home capacity on brownfield sites within the capital already, which at the rate of delivery under the current mayor is an 83-year supply of housing development plots. So rather than focusing on releasing Greenbelt for development, why isn't the government focusing on getting the homes that already have planning permission and that could be built on brownfield sites tomorrow built instead?
I thank the Shadow Minister for his question. The government is focusing on precisely that. That is precisely why, Mr Speaker, we've strengthened further national planning policy in respect of previously developed land. That's out to consultation, as he knows, at the moment. That's why our New Homes Accelerator is doing what is needed to unblock permission sites across the country. I'm afraid, Mr Speaker, the idea that house building is collapsing. We are dealing with the legacy of the previous government's decisions, including the abolition of mandatory housing targets, but starts are up and applications are coming through the system, Mr Speaker.
Chris Bloor.
Question 8, please, Mr Speaker.
Minister.
Mr Speaker, the Renters' Rights Act received royal assent on the 27th of October last year. We intend, as per the roadmap we published in November, to implement the new tenancy system it provides for on the 1st of May, at which point, among other things, Section 21 no-fault evictions will be abolished, rental bidding wars prohibited, and the practice of landlords demanding large amounts of rent in advance from tenants banned.
I thank the Minister for his response. He knows the Renters' Rights Act will be transformative, especially for my constituents in Redditch. But can my honourable friend assure me that the government recognises the urgent need to improve safety and standards in the private rented sector, and will he act to drive down rates of non-decency?
I thank my honourable friend for that question. I can provide him with the assurance he seeks, Mr Speaker. Whether in the PRS or social rented sector, landlords should address non-decency wherever it exists. While we are giving landlords until 2035 to implement our new decent home standard, we've made clear they should not wait until 2035 to improve their properties. And we're also acting in other ways to ensure private tenants have safe, warm and decent homes, including introducing new minimum energy efficiency standards for the sector, strengthening local authority enforcement in respect of unremediated hazards, and applying Awab's law to the PRS through the relevant provisions in the Act.
Jim Shannon.
Speaker, can I thank the Minister very much for his answer. The private sector renting in Northern Ireland is a slightly different system, and the Minister knows that. But the problems are the same. It doesn't matter where they are in the United Kingdom, Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Can I ask the Minister is always incredibly helpful when it comes to assuring me and others in this House of the importance of Northern Ireland's input into the process. Can I ask the Minister, has he had the opportunity to speak to the relevant Minister at the Northern Ireland Assembly to ensure that we in Northern Ireland can have the same protections that the Minister is indicating for here? Thank you.
I can provide him with that assurance. I have met my counterpart in Northern Ireland some time ago, and he prompts me to look at my private office and ensure that another meeting is scheduled for the near future.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Burgess Hill in my Mid-Sussex constituency.
Question number 9.
Pardon. Question number 9, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Government is taking action to revive our high streets after a decade and a half of neglect under the last government. We are tackling vacant premises through high street rental auction, driving local regeneration through £5.8 billion of Pride and Place funding, and bringing forward a high street strategy backed by at least £150 million of support to the areas that need it the most.
Alison Bennett.
I'm very sorry, Mr. Speaker. Burgess Hill in my Mid-Sussex constituency has done everything asked of it by successive governments. It's taking thousands of new houses, and yet it has a high street and shopping centre that need redevelopment. Under the previous Conservative government, a levelling up fund bid was not successful, and Labour have not supported it through the Pride in Place scheme. The Liberal Democrats want to give Burgess Hill the town centre it so badly deserves. What can the Minister offer to support the regeneration of high streets and town centres like Burgess Hill that are unlikely to qualify for Pride in Place funding?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member is right to talk about the importance of high streets. They are a barometer for how people feel their communities are doing and how they feel the nation is doing. We are committed to reviving high streets, and that means reimagining high streets and working with communities through our high street strategies to find ways in which we can empower them to do that. We've got the high street rental auction, which is a way in which we can get vacant premises up and running, but we are committed alongside £150 million that we have announced with a strategy so that places are able to reshape their high streets so that it can work for their communities.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In Derby, we've heard concerns the impact of food delivery drivers have on our high streets and the city centre, particularly on St Peter Street. Will the Minister work across departmentally to ensure that food delivery companies are operating safely on our high streets and in our city centres?
Thank you to the honourable member for raising that issue. I am committed to working across departments. I'm happy to meet with him to hear the specifics of the issues in his high streets and to work with colleagues across government to see how we respond.
Sir Aldey.
Number 10, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
With your permission, Mr. Speaker, I will answer questions 10 and 18 together. On the 27th of January, the Building Safety Regulator became an arm's-length body under MHCLG, a major step towards creating a single construction regulator. The BSR continues to make strong progress in the overhaul of its operating model. Only the most complex legacy new build cases remain, and new applications are being approved near the 12-week target through the Innovation Unit. The BSR is building on this progress, focusing on delivering improvements in respect to remediation and the in-occupation regime.
Aldey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Mayor of London has set a target of building 88,000 new homes in London per year over the next decade. However, recent figures show that construction began last year on only 5,891. Over the past 2 years, construction for new builds has fallen by 85% in affordable homes and 94% for council housing. And delays at the building safety regulator's approval processes are stalling development projects, curtailing investment and losing people their jobs. So does the Minister agree with me that ensuring the regulator is operating efficiently is paramount to delivering on housing targets and supporting the UK housing sector?
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The Government recognised last summer that the building safety regulator needed to be reformed, brought in new leadership, and the performance has seen a marked improvement. Performance data is published monthly, so it's very transparent how the building safety regulator is performing. In the final quarter of 2025, we saw the highest number of decisions, 673, since the BSR commenced in operations, and we're still pushing hard for further improvements.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Tomorrow marks 1 year since the residents of Sundowner Court in Southampton were forced to leave their own homes because of serious fire safety defects. 2 neighbouring blocks followed soon after, and no one expects to be back in their own homes for at least another year. The government's rightly prioritised speeding up remediation, and it's important that our regulator shares that sense of urgency. But with the building safety regulator taking up to 40 weeks to approve some of those remediation plans, what improvements can the Minister promise this government will take in order to speed up those approvals and end the misery for my residents?
Thank you, Mr Speaker. MHCLG and the Building Safety Regulator accept that many applicants have experienced delays, and we recognise that having to wait 40 weeks for decisions is unacceptable. That's why the BSR has established a dedicated external remediation team, and they're engaging with stakeholders to work through the detail of applications. A new batching model is being trialled to reduce the length of time taken to assess building control applications while maintaining building and resident safety.
Gareth Bacon, Shadow Minister.
Mr Speaker, when announcing reforms to the Building Safety Regulator last June, the Secretary of State's Department promised to enhance the review of new build applications, unlock delays and boost sector confidence. But in London, where demand for house building is highest, house building has fallen to its lowest level since 2009 under the last Labour government. At Gateway 2, towards the end of Q4 2025, there were still 740 live cases, and on top of this, of the decisions that were made, the vast majority were either invalid, withdrawn or rejected. Indeed, 67% were not classed as approved for one reason or another. That's not success, is it?
Thank you, Mr Speaker. 11,962 new build homes have been approved in the last 12 weeks, allowing construction to start. The BSR is moving forward. We will continue to press them to do better.
Bacon.
With all due respect, Mr Speaker, the government needs to do an awful lot better than that. The government are hiding behind a claim that a clear downward trend in live Gateway 2 applications, but in London the reality is that according to the government's own statistics across all categories, the number of live applications has fallen by a mere 6% in the last 12 weeks. That is hardly a reason to celebrate, is it? So will the government admit that they, Sadiq Khan, and their under-delivering reforms are hindering rather than helping to get London building?
Mr Speaker, performance continues to improve steadily across Gateway 2 and decisions are being made increasingly quickly and at higher volumes. We will continue to press the BSR to do better and faster.
Imran Hussain.
Number 11, sir.
Minister.
Mr Speaker, there are 1.3 million people on local authority housing registers across the country. It is not in dispute that there is acute need across England as a whole. National policy makes clear that it's for local authorities, informed by local assessments of need, to set out requirements for the proportion and type of affordable housing that should be delivered through new development, including the minimum proportion of social rented housing required, and plan to meet that need.
I thank the Minister, and he will know Bradford has one of the youngest and fastest growing cities. Yet we are urgently and desperately in need of social and affordable housing. And the reality is homelessness is on the rise, and we have record levels of people on the waiting list. Families simply cannot get decent houses. So will the Minister give me assurances, whilst I welcome the Government's ambitious home building programme, will he give me assurances that there will be adequate measures in there to address the need for social and affordable housing? And whilst local government will have some say, we must give clear directions.
I thank my honourable friend for his question, and given the acute need for affordable housing in Bradford, I understand entirely why he continues to press so vigorously for an uplift in the supply of affordable but particularly social rented housing in his constituency. My honourable friend will, I know, welcome the fact that bidding for grant funding from our new £39 billion social and affordable homes programme will open in the coming days. 60% of that £39 billion is targeted as social rent, and he'll also know that the Government is currently consulting on a new national planning policy framework, including proposals designed to further support the delivery of social and affordable housing, such as setting a national expectation of at least 10% social rent on all new developments.
Question 12, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are very clear that communities should be in the driving seat, and so whether that is through local people coming together in a neighbourhood board led by an independent chair from the community, develop a plan to invest 20 million of Pride in Place funding over the next decade. But there is also an expectation on that board to kick off a much wider conversation with the community, reaching parts of the community that aren't normally round the table, that are locked out of decision. And the community engagement will be supported by 150,000 for every place in order to make sure that we are reaching people, speaking to them, and making sure that they are at the very heart of this plan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For me, the most exciting thing about the £20 million Pride in Place funding for Chaddeston West in my constituency is that local people decide how it's spent, because people in Chad know their community better than anyone. And I've already had some great suggestions, including creating opportunities for young people, tackling loneliness for older people, and addressing antisocial behaviour in the area. How is government ensuring that local voices are heard and acted on?
Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend is completely right. Local people in Chadston West know what their priorities are and therefore should absolutely be in the driving seat. And can I thank her for both championing but the work that she is doing to make Pride in Place a success. We have been very clear in the guidance that neighbourhood boards led by the community, will be in the driving seat and must be the key decision maker. We are developing toolkits to support community engagement, backed by 150,000 funding so that we can reach out, go onto the estates, go into the neighbourhoods in order to have a conversation with the community to drive the change that they want to see.
Thank you. Question 14, please.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, to honour our commitment to deliver the biggest increase in social and affordable house building in a generation, we've backed registered providers with the biggest social and affordable housing investment in recent memory. And while there is more to do, we've already taken steps to strengthen the existing developer contribution system to ensure new developments provide necessary affordable homes and infrastructure.
Central will create 12,500 new jobs and 3,000 new homes in Phase 1 before the Planning Committee in May. Yet just 20% is allocated to affordable, but there must be an ambition for 40%, because York has one of the worst housing affordability disparities in the country. So we must reach that target, or else our housing crisis will worsen. So will he meet with me to discuss York Central and set out what steps he will take with Homes England to ensure we don't just achieve housing numbers, but we meet local need?
Mr. Speaker, we need to build many more homes of all tenures, but it is absolutely right to stress the importance of delivering a significant uplift in social and affordable homes. I am aware that discussions are ongoing about increasing the proportion of affordable housing within the York Central scheme. I'd encourage the developer to work with Homes England and relevant registered providers to maximise the potential for social and affordable housing in its first phase, and I'm more than happy to ensure my honourable friend gets an appointment at one of my forthcoming tea room surgeries.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the House will know, local plans are a method in which we can identify affordable homes and making sure they're in the right place at the right time. Since I was elected back in December 2019, I've consistently asked the Liberal Democrat 3 Years District Council to get on with a local plan. As the Housing Minister will know, the latest version of that plan did not have sufficient evidence, and therefore he's had to rightly call it in. Does the Minister agree with me that the Lib Dems need to get on with delivering the local plan, and they should not continue to fail my residents in South West Hertfordshire?
The honourable gentleman will understand that I can't discuss any specific local plan, but what I would say in general terms is Any party that controls any local planning authority across the country must take active and firm steps to get up-to-date local plans in place. They are the best way for local communities to shape development. Without them in place, communities are open to speculative development that doesn't have resident input. That is why we're pushing for universal coverage across the country.
Question 15, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, local development plans, as I've said, should address needs and opportunities in relation not only to housing numbers but infrastructure, and identify what infrastructure is required and how it can be funded and brought forward. Through changes to national planning policy and financial support for essential infrastructure through land and infrastructure funding programmes, the Government is also supporting infrastructure provision, but we recognise that there is more to do to make sure the right infrastructure gets built at the right time.
Sarah Green.
Mr. Speaker, I'm keen to hear what work the Department has underway to ensure the necessary infrastructure is in place when the cumulative effect of lots of smaller developments is the same as one large development. This is a live issue in Buckinghamshire where we don't yet have a local plan. Would the Minister meet with me to hear about the struggles communities are currently facing in getting the relevant agencies to engage when the cumulative effect will have the same impact on the sewerage system and the GP provision as one big development?
I thank the Honourable Lady for that question. Mr. Speaker, it is not the whole answer, but having an up-to-date local plan in place and an up-to-date infrastructure funding statement can make a huge difference in ensuring the right infrastructure is coming forward at the appropriate time. I'm more than happy to meet with the Honourable Lady to discuss what more we can do, not only to get her local authority to get its plan in place as quickly as possible, but what we can do to bring development and infrastructure forward on individual developments in her constituency in the right way.
Thank
you, Mr. Speaker. Until local roads are adopted, communities miss out on so much, from having their roads gritted to, I found out, getting a post box. How can we make sure that councils like Central Bedfordshire speed up?
I think it's probably easier, Mr. Speaker, if my honourable friend writes to me about particular concerns in her area, and I will set out the Government's full position, and I'm happy to discuss in further detail the matter she raises.
Right, let us move on to topicals. Anna Dixon.
Question 1, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, earlier this month the Prime Minister confirmed that 40 more places will join the Pride in Place programme. That means that nearly 300 communities will benefit from this transformational programme. These are the areas held back the most by the previous government. They will receive up to £20 million each over 10 years, a transformational level of funding. But importantly, it's local people who will decide how that money is spent, because this government recognises it's local people who know best what needs to change to bring back pride to the heart of the place they call home.
Anna Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our politics are increasingly fragmented. There is a real threat that at the next general election, a minority extreme party could win a majority of seats with just a fraction of the popular vote. The situation is urgent. 60% of the public now supporting proportional representation. Would the Minister meet with me and other members of the all-party parliamentary group Fair Elections to discuss the case for a national commission on electoral reform?
The government, she'll be disappointed to hear, has no plans to change the electoral system for UK parliamentary or local council elections in England. And indeed, the last time a government called a referendum on proportional representation, the public rejected it. The government believes that while first past the post is not always perfect, it provides a very important direct relationship between members of this chamber and their local constituents. I will, of course, make sure that she gets an appropriate meeting.
Secretary of State Sir James Cleverly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. An estimated 48,000 new entrants a year are needed in the construction sector to meet the government's 1.5 million homes target. Apprenticeship starts are around half that figure, and apprenticeship completions are less than a quarter of that figure. So does the Secretary of State now accept that his target will not be met, that there is a growing construction skills crisis under Labour, and that the government has no credible plan to deliver the workforce needed to build these homes?
Well, the government remains fully committed to meeting the £1.5 million new homes target. We're working with the sector to ensure that happens. Local authorities now have housing targets again, which Sadly, the government that he was a member of scrapped. We're investing £600 million to increase vocational skills and training to ensure that we have the supply of workers that the sector needs, and we're working closely with developers themselves who are also helping to fund the need for a pipeline of talent to build the homes this country needs.
James?
As my honourable friends have already highlighted, in London, under a Labour mayor and a Labour government, house building has collapsed to less than 60% of the target. In October, Mr. Speaker, the Secretary of State said, "My job should be on the line if I fail to meet my target." So as the 1.5 million homes will not be built, is he going to keep his promise and resign, or is he going to wait to be fired by whoever replaces the Prime Minister after the May elections?
He will be aware, since he was a member of the previous government, that house building across the country collapsed in 23-24, and the previous government chose to do nothing. This month, the Social and Affordable Homes programme opens for bids. London will get 30% of that, worth over £11 billion. That will help to provide the biggest increase in social and affordable homes in London and across the country this country has seen.
Dave Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support the government's plans to build 1.5 million homes, and in Stoke-on-Trent and Kidsgrove, families and first-time buyers really do need them. Residents in Packmore, Ball Green, Norton Green and Talk understand that too. But does the Minister agree with me that development should be brownfield first, protecting green space wherever possible, and backed by the investment in infrastructure that our communities need and deserve?
I can give my honourable friend the assurances he seeks, Mr. Speaker, and I'd encourage him and his constituents to engage with proposals in the consultation on a revised NPPF that seek to further strengthen support for brownfield development and ensure appropriate infrastructure provisions alongside that development. Come forward.
Andrew George.
The ministers know full well that a planning application submitted today for affordable homes will not contribute to the government's, though welcome, intention to meet affordable housing need by the end of this Parliament. It simply isn't. I mean, the Minister is shaking his head. This simply is not possible through the pre-development process. Although I've met the Secretary of State to discuss how we can move forward shovel-ready projects which are actually held back at the moment, will ministers meet members of Parliament that are concerned about the thousands of homes which could be delivered now, could start on site right now, and so that we can get Britain building and meet the desperate need for affordable homes?
I don't accept his characterisation of development that can come forward that will be funded through our new social and affordable homes programme. We're ensuring that that programme has the necessary flexibility to fund provision across the country, whether it be community-led housing, rural housing, and our new homes accelerator is doing precisely what the honourable gentleman says, going in, unblocking the problem site by site to get stalled development going.
Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The HCLG Select Committee has just published a report on social housing conditions, warning that just under 430,000 social homes are non-decent. Additional research also shows that in the north, over 100,000 social homes are reaching end of life over the next 10 years. I'm chairing the Westminster group of the Renew Inquiry, looking at how housing-led regeneration in the north can improve housing conditions, support the delivery of new homes and growth. Will the Minister meet with me and reps from the National Northern Housing Consortium to discuss this important issue?
Well, I have met with Northern Housing Consortium on a number of occasions. My honourable friend will know that funding from the Social and Affordable Homes programme can be used to support the regeneration of existing social housing estates. If he wants to write to me with further details about some of the recommendations he's just suggested, I'd be more than happy to respond.
Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Many Park Home residents in South Shropshire are really concerned about the 10% sales commission and think it's unfair. I know the government has committed to a consultation. Will they speed this up and basically just scrap the unfair commission?
We do need to better understand, because the answers were not forthcoming in the consultation carried out under the previous government, what the rationale for the commission is. But I can assure him that in the very near future we will go out to consult and to find more evidence that we need so that we can take the action in this area that is so desperately needed.
Oh, Michael Whelan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, in my constituency of Worsley and Eccles, I know that the residents of Peel Green and the surrounding area, including the enthusiastic pupils of Salford City Academy, are really looking to get their hands on the Pride in Place money. what measures, what steps is this government taking to make sure that they are at the forefront, they take the lead and they decide?
Thank you to my honourable friend for all the work that he is doing with his community on Pride in Place. We are very, very clear that the community should be in the driving seat, and we are setting a clear expectation that all places will have forms of community-led delivery by the third year, and that creates the opportunity for community interest companies, cooperatives and other models, because at the heart of this is the principle that the people who know their patch the best should be in the driving seat of changing their place.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. With local growth funding stopping for Murray Council in my constituency, associated progress in digital connectivity will stop, business advice and growth services will reduce, and there will be a much reduced skills development programme. A total of 14 staff will be made redundant with little scope for redeployment. Why is the Minister content to preside over these funding cuts and redundancies?
Mr Speaker, what I would say to the member opposite is we have committed to local growth funding to boost growth in Scotland. We have also delivered record investment to the Scottish Government that does have within its gift to invest in its communities, to invest in programmes that will drive the prosperity of its local area. They should not be looking to national government where we have done their part over to the SNP.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. While I very much welcome that the Red Line in Sutton has had its ACV status extended by a year, this does not completely protect it from future planning applications. Would the Minister agree to meet with me and discuss this case and the railway pub in Norton Bridge to understand how the government can best support these sites and save them for future community use?
Yes. Thank you to my honourable friend. Yes, I will absolutely meet with her.
Charlie Jost.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Now, the Secretary of State will be well aware from his time at DEFRA about issues with agricultural planning. So will he guarantee the House will take urgent action to unblock the system and unlock tens of millions of pounds back into the rural economy?
It's quite difficult, Mr Speaker, to understand from that question precisely what the honourable gentleman is getting at. If he wants to write to me, I'll happily respond.
Sam Rushworth.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I know that people who elect us to this place believe that public standards in our politicians is really important, whether that's at a national or a local level. There's growing concern about the leader and deputy leader of our reform-led council in Durham and their public behaviour. But they've changed the regime for standards so that only a committee of 3 with 2 reform members looks at those issues. So will the Minister consider an independent Commissioner for Standards for local government to make sure that we can hold our representatives to account?
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I thought I was going to get away with not answering any questions there. But I would just say to the honourable member that he raises a very important issue. On the 11th of November last year, we published a government response to a consultation, and I am anxious to get on with taking more steps to address the kind of thing he raises as quickly as we can.
Sir Julian Lewis-Smith.
Mr Speaker, small businesses across North Yorkshire are under massive pressure. NI, the Workers' Rights Bill, rates, the list goes on, energy costs. Now that the consultation on the tourist tax has closed, will he put that tax on pause in the interests of job creation for young people? The stats today were truly appalling.
Mr Speaker, the tourism levy is something that our mayors and local areas have campaigned for. We are consulting on that at the moment, but we are very, very clear that there will be a balance between the ability of areas to generate that tax and ensuring that local businesses and SMEs are thriving in the area, which is both the remit and the priority of the mayors, and it is the remit and the priority of the government.
Mr Speaker, an application was made recently for a 24-hour gambling casino in Crystal Palace. Along with Labour councillors, the Labour MP for Croydon and Streatham North, and over 1,000 local residents, we are opposing this predatory operator from opening. Will the Minister join me in calling on the Conservative-run council to listen to residents and block this application?
Mr Speaker, can I thank my honourable friend for his very effective and committed campaign. Look, we are very, very clear that local areas should be given the power to shape their high streets, and when we have things like gambling shops and casinos that are working against what communities want, it is absolutely right that the council takes action. This is an area that I know that I and the Secretary of State are very committed to working with my honourable friend on.
Good job.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Last year, London were meant to start 88,000 new homes. Instead, they started 5,891. That shortfall has a direct impact on rents in my Spelthorne constituency. Can the Secretary of State say why he is allowing Sadik Khan to run circles around him?
Mr Speaker, the government has recognised openly that there is a perfect storm when it comes to house building in London. That's precisely why we're out to consult on an emergency package. As he will know, the consultation closed just weeks ago, and he doesn't have long to wait where we come forward with next steps.
Dan Carden.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Private market rents are most extortionate in working class communities like mine, where you can still buy a terraced house for around £70,000. So far, the government has kept regulation linked to market rents, but we could do something different. We could do something the Tories and Reform cannot do, but which previous Labour governments did do, and that is, like Harold Wilson's fair rents, rent control in deprived areas with poor housing stock. So will ministers at least consider a pilot, and why not in Liverpool?
I'm sorry to disappoint my honourable friend, but the government has been very clear. We do not support rent controls. The provisions of our Renters' Rights Act will ensure that landlords can only increase rent once a year and that tenants are empowered to challenge unreasonable rent increases.
Alice Brewer.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. What measures is the Minister taking to protect communities from inappropriate speculative development when effective and expensive local plans that were working have been rendered effectively useless by new housing targets?
But if a local planning authority has an up-to-date local plan in place, it will be up-to-date and in place until it needs to be replaced, at which point we expect the targets that flow from the new standard method to be adhered to.
Olivars.
Speaker, will the Minister meet with me to discuss the decisions of Walsall Council, including the closure of the Leather Museum against the wishes of local people?
I will, Mr Speaker.
Winnie Morton.
Mr Speaker, another request from Walsall Borough residents from me. The Secretary of State earlier today said local people know best. I've sent him an invitation to a peaceful protest in Aldridge on Saturday, where residents from right across the constituency are coming together to protect their precious green belt. Will he come and meet with them, please?
Yeah. Very good.
Well, I do apologise that my diary is already full up. I'll be in another part of the country on Saturday, but I'm sure her constituents would also want to see the homes built that they and their children will need now and in the future.
Amanda Hack.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. We need to improve the infrastructure surrounding new developments and our existing developments, while ensuring that highways in local government who felt the full impact of austerity have the resources to deliver. What conversations have the Minister had to expand capacity in local government to ensure highways have the appropriate resources to deliver the infrastructure that we need?
Well, Mr Speaker, we have provided significant support for local planning authorities to help them with capacity and capability pressures, and she will know that through the provisions in the Planning and Infrastructure Act, we're allowing local authorities to set their own fees at a local level to ensure that their costs can be covered.
After Brand.
There are a number of new build housing developments in my constituency of Chester South and Eddisbury where developers have sold the properties and moved on without completing the work for vital infrastructure like roads and sewers. What consideration has the Secretary of State given to allowing councils to refuse future planning permission to developers with a record of leaving developments incomplete?
Good point. Well, as part of the proposals we set out in a build-out working paper last year, we are looking at some of the powers in the Levelling Up and Regeneration Act that do allow local planning authorities to refuse planning permissions to developers who consistently don't build out. On the issue of highways, if you'd like to write to me with some more detail, I'll happily respond to it.
Or it's time.
Much, Mr Speaker. Does the Minister agree that Birmingham's exit from Section 114 status is an important moment for the city, and do they further agree that it's time to start scaling back the central government intervention?
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Birmingham City Council has strengthened its financial position, and its balanced budget proposal for 26-27 is a significant milestone. And this has been made possible by the government's funding reforms, which increased Birmingham's core spending power by 45% from 24-25 to 28-29, because we recognise that council should be funded in line with poverty and deprivation.
Dr Al Pigton.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The Minister has talked about the protections afforded by local plans, but in areas like Surrey Heath and in Guildford, which have experienced a near doubling of housing targets, those protections have been stripped away according to the tilted balance approach. So can I ask the Minister what protections is he going to put in place, at least as a temporary measure, to protect our communities from speculative development?
Well, local plans that are up to date do provide protection in favour of speculative development. Of course, local authorities have to ensure they're meeting housing delivery targets. That is an essential part of the system. Again, if he wants to write to me with further detail, I'll happily respond.
Speaker, this government has announced that it is awarding over £18 million to Redcar and Cleveland Borough Council to help them tackle a broken children's social care market. And while this is very welcome, it is a shame, of course, that it is necessary. And so will ministers meet with my council leader to discuss what further support can be put in place to make sure that this is not needed into the future?
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I thank my friend for raising what is an incredibly important issue. I'm working closely with DFE ministers on it, and I had the pleasure of speaking to a representative from Redcar and Cleveland earlier today, but I'll keep doing that with him as well.
Yes, you can.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I'm afraid this question may feel like Groundhog Day, because this time last month I asked for a meeting about local government reform because my residents are so concerned. I was promised a meeting, and yet chasing at least twice a week, every single week for the last month, we've had zero response from the department. When are we going to get the meetings that we're promised in this chamber on really important matters?
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I thank the Honourable Lady for chasing it. I'm sure we'll meet before too long. Local government reorganisation. Local government reorganisation is an important issue. I don't think it's funny either, but I would just say to her, we will meet before too long and get on with it, because local government reorganisation is very important.
Go and stand back.
Speaker, in Falkirk, an allocation from Labour's Impact Fund has addressed a funding gap that would have otherwise risked the delivery of Scottish Canals National Centre for Excellence for Canals and Traditional Skills. Will the Minister visit this regeneration project once completed to celebrate this Labour Government's investment supporting in Falkirk?
Thank you to my old friend. Yes, I or one of my colleagues will happily come and visit this fantastic scheme.
Josh Bubberin.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Sovereign Harbour in Eastbourne is unique in that it's the only harbour in the country where freeholders and leaseholders, through their rent charge, have to pay not only for the maintenance of the area, but also for sea defences, rather than the government. So will the Secretary of State commit to meeting with me to review this arrangement, review the fairness of it, and help to stem the tide of 16% increases in that rent charge like this year?
Not just because I've accepted a large number of meetings, but I think the far better way for the honourable gentleman to submit his views is through the appropriate consultation on freehold estates, where he can bring that case to life for us and the issues it raises.
Final question, Jim Allister.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Having seen the closure of the two largest retailers in the main shopping street in Ballymena in my constituency in recent weeks, does the Minister think that the ideology of pride in place is capable of rescuing the situation? And as part of that, would it be possible to have a special programme whereby large retail spaces whose overheads are unbearable could be subdivided into small retail units for new businesses so that the overheads might indeed become bearable?
Thank you to the member for raising this point. Look, the plight of our high streets is one that this government is very, very, very alive to, and that we are trying to work with national governments and local governments to make sure that we respond. Our job is to make sure that we are providing the powers and the ability for places to shape their high streets so that it responds to what their communities want. And in that space, we are open to ideas, and those ideas coming from local areas.
Let front bench change over.